that will fall on a sword should you need them to, and actually, not in a sense illegally, but have your back, because we are a partnership and everyone's goal is to come to the closing table. And like I said, this is where some things go wrong. So last week we had the appraiser, and we gave him some tough time. And so now this week we have Mr. David Bybee. And Ted wanted to give a little testimonial, and then I will as well.
I met David Bybee many years ago. How many? Probably 5 now? Is that 7? From a personal letter that he sent to my home. I have never responded to a personal letter, but it was written with such authenticity. And I want you to know today it's not about promotion of using David or any of that, but I want to give just some credibility to who and what he's about. David's a longtime West Nashville resident. He's owned tons of investment property. He's born and raised in the business. He's still laying tile in his own personal home, and there's Facebook photos to prove that. But he uses latest technology, and I called him off that letter and started using him, and it's been one of the best experiences. So I'm excited for you all to learn from him and us to have a fun, interactive session here.
Thanks, Ted. And I got to know David Bybee because I live in his house.
That's true.
Which is an amazing thing, because I figure anybody that can build a house like he built, that I get to live in, has got to be either nuts or great. And it's a little boat. I lay in bed every night and look at the ceiling and wonder, what in God's name was he thinking? But it's gorgeous. So
4 months to do that ceiling in that house.
It's
it was a labor of love.
For me, thank you, Dane. Anyway, it's squares of polished birch, every inch of the ceiling, all fitted together in perfect little square rectangle.
Yes, we'll get some pictures. I'm going to show the pictures at the end.
Okay, so anyway, back to inspections, because that really sold me that if he could build a house from scratch himself, personally, he knows about home building and what to look for. So let's let you take it away, and I'm going to be here to interject and help with questions.
Do I need to speak in this microphone, or my voice tends to carry?
Sounds good.
Or do I?
That sounds good.
I'm David Bybee, owner of Tennessee Home Inspection Services, and thank you so much for Bobby and Ted for inviting me here today. Anytime I get a chance to come to the village, this is great. I love this place. Remember back when it was downstairs, Ted invited me to one of y'all's sales meetings. It was one of the best sales meetings I've ever been to. I get a chance to go to quite a few other agencies, and bar none, Village is on top. So, but thank you for that introduction. A little bit about myself, about how I got started in the home inspection. It started way back when I was a little boy. My father was in construction, remodeling, and naturally, every snow day, every summer vacation, it was, come on boy, you're going to work with me. So I started at a young age with him. Actually, if any of y'all have been here, I was born and raised in Nashville. Let me back up. Born and raised in Nashville my entire life. Graduated Hillwood in '84. And I remember working in Brentwood when it was just cow pastures. When the houses just started breaking out there. So worked with him all through. I left and went to school, went to the military for a little bit, came back, started running the company, became a licensed contractor in '98. Ran that company all the way through, flooring, remodeling, building. Ran that and dissolved the company in 2011, kind of shortly after the recession we had. Did some commercial work, and then just kind of, I was at a point in my life to where I could semi-retire. So kind of semi-retired, but every time I went home, my wife had a honey-do list that just kept growing. I mean, I knocked some things out, and it just keep getting. I'm thinking, if I'm gonna be working that hard, I won't be making some money somewhere other than working around the house. So different things happened. I had a friend of mine that won a mayoral race in a local municipality. He said, Dave, I know you got a lot of experience in building, and I need a building commissioner. So I said, okay, I'll give you 3 days a week. Went through a year of great training at the Tennessee Code Academy, right down here close to Smithville, between, I forgot where, Murfreesboro, Smithville, somewhere down there. But a lot of great training, and then stayed a little while doing that job, and then retired from that because he needed me there for 5 days a week. I can only give you 3. So then we go into something else. Got to look at the catastrophe insurance adjusting. About 6 months, a lot of fun, a lot of traveling. Didn't like being gone that long. A friend of mine said, Dave, you have, with all this knowledge and training that you had, you need to get into home inspection. So I started getting my license, doing a lot of research, threw a net out across the nation as far as what are the top companies doing? What are they utilizing? Are they thermal imaging? Got it. What kind of software? It took me 6 months to pick the software to find one that was really easy, user-friendly, to create these digital reports that I send our clients. Got into looking at the drones. Drone technology was coming out. I think I may be the first home inspector to use drone technology. I know there's a few companies out there now. I don't know if anybody is FAA certified. I'm now FAA certified for a few years. Might as well get legal if they're going to put restrictions on us. So, and that's what brings us here today. And I'm ready to start talking about some contingencies that y'all have to deal with, I have to deal with, making y'all look good. And I think Bobby touched base on it, that I walk a fine line. So it's not only my job to take care of our clients, but it's also my job to take care of y'all. Because it's all about making everybody happy and getting to the closing table. And that's what I do. I get y'all to the closing table. I actually have probably a little over a 98% rate of closing. If I inspect that house, over 90% of the time it's going to close. If it doesn't close, it's probably something that's really bad. And very rarely do I get to a house that's really bad that we can't close. So thank y'all for listening to that. Is there any?
Well, the one thing that happens in our neck of the woods is, we hire our inspector, or we let the buyer pick it. We have to be careful.
Right.
And the inspector goes out, and what do you think about an agent being present or the buyer being present during an inspection?
I pause because I just want to be careful. I am okay with anybody being at the inspection, especially with the client. It's sometimes it's their first. It's a big purchase for them. They want to be there. They want to know what's going on immediately, and I get that. But like a lot of people, when you got someone shadowing you, looking over your shoulder, what I do is so repetitious that I've got a checklist that I go down. I mean, it's just like every day, all day, the same checklist. And if I have not gotten to an issue that maybe the client wants to talk about, but they're kind of eager, hey, what do y'all think about this hole I see over here in the soffit? Well, I might be looking at something on my checklist. Now I've got to stop and pull away and go talk with them about what's going on over here, and I lose track. And when I lose track, it's a possibility that I may forget something, but I still go back and try to go over. So that it adds a lot of time for me on the site, but that's okay. I mean, I don't. That's not really that.
How do you feel about them at the end? If we counseled our people, I used to counsel and say, they're going to go, give them an hour and a half, and maybe come at the end. I'll meet you at the end just for a little one-on-one, face-to-face.
Right. I actually have about 10 copies of an email that I send out. Let me get those and circulate those on. Sure. So not the very top. That's not like printing these off, where it says do not scan this email. So I send this off. So as soon as you schedule an inspection, the first thing I'm going to do is this email goes out to you and the client, and it manages expectations, kind of sort of. It tells you, date and time, the address, confirms address, date and time, just gives them, there's every question that you could possibly ask, or the client could ask, is in that email. And that's why I said at the top, do not scan, please read every line, because we all scan emails. And I'm trying to capture your attention at the beginning to read that, and then, because we are all so busy, and if when you and the client come at the end, I would like to give a 5 to 10 minute consultation of major issues, foundations, leaks, major appliances, HVAC, things of that nature. Because for me to sit there and talk about a light bulb that doesn't work, or maybe a loose hinge, or a doorknob that doesn't latch, I try to be so descriptive in my reporting that I don't mind asking or answering a question at all. Call me, text me, I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But for me to keep from doing the redundancy, we don't really need to talk about a light bulb that doesn't work or a loose latch. But foundation or something, 5 or 10 minutes, I can cover a lot of bad things, or I won't say bad things, but major issues in a short amount of time. So as far as spending 30 to 45 minutes on site, if I had that's usually my travel time to get to my next house, and then I can write that report. And then once the report's in hand, it just about, 99% is going to answer. But no,
telling our clients to call you?
absolutely not. As a matter of fact, in this email, it's feel free to. I offer a cash discount. You can pay online, cash discount. Come by, meet and greet, look at the house, take measurements. But then if you have any questions, always feel free to talk, call, text, email. Once you get that report in hand, it's important for them to know, get the report in hand so we both know what I'm talking about. Instead of just, because the picture is worth 1,000 words. I use a lot of pictures, and try to minimize the writing. But to answer your question, as far as anybody being there, I don't mind at all. Clients, agents. Then when you start getting like 5 or 6 people of the family, because everybody's excited, everybody's running around. Usually when I'm turning on the heat and air, if I got the heat on in the summer, checking the heat out, someone's coming right behind me cutting it off. It's like now I gotta wait for that unit to rank back up again. I've done that many times. That I've turned on the air conditioner. And,
how is it with your time? You know that we have a time frame that we're working with, and I would say that we usually, what do you guys think? 7 to 10 days? It's about sometimes
about
7
what I
to 10
see.
for the inspection, all the inspections.
Right.
And you do several.
I do.
Good.
I do.
So 2 questions in there. Number 1, how does an inspector, you being our example at this moment, manage to work into the time frames that, we may only get a couple, not even a week?
As soon as you go binding, maybe even if you're thinking about you're going to be going binding, at least give me notification. I can't really block it off 100%. I'm going to block you off next Wednesday at 9 o'clock because you haven't gone binding yet. There's a lot of slip between the couple of lips, so things can happen. So, but the earliest notification if possible, I've got some clients that'll have a 10-day inspection period, and then they did it on Thursday, they'll call me next Tuesday. Well, they've already eaten up 5 days. It's like, well, sometimes I can't squeeze them in, but most times the agents that I work with, I really am loyal to them. They're loyal to me, and I bend over backwards to make it happen. So, but yeah, so it's sometimes it's difficult to squeeze it in when they delay letting me know, especially if we're doing additional services. I also coordinate, I look at the HVAC system, I make sure it's cooling and heating properly, but I don't take off the covering. I don't get down into the nuts and bolts of it. I don't hook up, technical tools to check refrigerant levels and electronics and all that.
And I don't think most inspectors do.
No, so I've got a pool of professionals that, if you have a client that, and I put it out there like in the email, in the green, additional services. If you need a termite, for instance, I am now a certified termite inspector. So I offer that free for my clients, for you and my clients. So that's one coordinating I don't have to do. I work with a small company called Anti-Pest out of Bellevue. They're a small mom and pop shop just like me. Let me back that one more. I am the only inspector. So I am not a multi-firm, I'm not a franchise, I built this from the ground up right here in Nashville. And anytime that you have a question, your clients have a question, when you call the phone number, you're talking to me, not inspector number 4, number 8, or whatever. You're talking to the person that's there. So that's why I like working with the small mom and pop shop anti-pest termite company. You're talking just to John, or HVAC with Mr. Cool. You're just talking to Paul. And another one that we've started, I partnered with back in May, that has been a tremendous help in working with a wonderful company, Radon One. David Coffey with Radon One. Be working with him when you have an issue, you're talking to David. So we offer those services as you see on the emails there, and it has just really try to be a one-stop shop. You make a call and I do it all. It's probably a slogan for somebody else.
What do you do about septic?
I really don't. Well, back up. I do have a company that I refer to. They're elite out of Robertson County. I've lived on the septic system myself, and they come every year and clean it out. Every 2 years they clean it out. But I have, just this past week, I had someone that wanted to live on, just buying a house on septic. They asked me about it. I don't inspect septic systems, but I refer to them, and they are a very reputable company. Now, I don't coordinate them. I guess I could, but I just let them the agent call this man.
What's the general price for?
About $250, and that's to come out to look at it and to clean it out. So they're going to clean it out. They're going to wash it out. Look around in there. As far as the field lines, I don't think they inject any type. If you take care of the septic tank, it takes care of your field lines. So they can tell what's going on in that tank about what kind of condition. That's about, I guess that's more knowledge than I thought I knew about it. So, but living on a septic system.
And
So
we
yes.
have a lot of problems here, David, with people who were on septic. Then the sewer came in, they never hooked the septic, but they're paying the sewer fee, so it's like 50 years later, and we find out, we have about 3 of those a year, where now we find out right in Kano that they never did hook up to the septic. And so how do you find, am I correct in saying the only way you can really know in those cases would be a pan with a plumb?
You know if they connected to the septic.
Yeah, the sewer.
I've never had been asked that question.
Okay.
I don't.
We have it, I'd say twice a year, yes, that will happen here in town, on an older house, that somebody
I can see
way
where
back
that happens,
when,
yeah.
and there's no reports, so we can't find it, okay.
Because because when I follow if I'm in the crawl space of the basement and I'm following that main line out, whether it's PVC or cast iron, I really can't tell where it's going. Now, if I see some septic tank material outside, like some covers or something, or some those alert, those little grinder, then I kind of know that it's probably on a septic system. But once it leaves that house, it's kind of out of my domain. And that's another thing that you see on that email that I sent out. And the emails are lengthy. It is. There's a lot of, it's chock full of information. That's why I'm saying, please read everything, because sure enough, someone will scan it and then they'll call me. It's like, well, hey, how much does that cost? Obviously, you didn't read the email. But I don't say that. I'm nice.
Never.
But yes, you see the tax structures, because this is a home inspection, not a property inspection. And I try to put that in there under the additional services, because if you've got a house here and you got a barn or a garage or another living quarters or something that's not attached to that house, then it's a totally different, it's an addition. So I just want to throw that in there as well.
So you've got some notes there.
Well, I do, but you're doing such a good job with asking me questions. I'm kind of.
So what do you guys find when you hire an inspector, whoever it is, what do you find your most challenging issues working with inspectors? We're gonna give him.
Well, this happened to me personally years ago. I had a crawl space in my home, and I was a realtor, and I'm a big believer of going to the home. Whether the buyer does, I'm gonna go. I'm the buyer's agent, I'm gonna go. So I asked him, he called her to the house, and he said, how's it look? I'm not crawling under the house. I can fit there, but I'm not gonna go in there, okay?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not going. I got no hazmat suit and goggles and all that, I don't wanna run into a thing. So anyway, so I go in there, or I ask him, so how's it look? And I always ask things that they should know, because they saw it, like a roof or a crawl space, it's the attic, those sorts of things. How's it look? And just by asking the question, I say, no, a lot of money. And he said, oh, great. Check off. He now goes to another home inspection. And when he wrote the reports, he got them backwards. And so he had my crawl space termite damage in the home inspection. And that was not the case. So I said, no, we had this conversation and you need to come back. This is not right. He did, and he solved that problem. But had I not asked that question, I would have never known
Right.
that was not the termite damage. And then, now this is in Florida, I think he got a kickback, referring to termite.
Oh, this is really not.
This one, yeah. So anyway, long story short though, that's a great thing to do if you're representing someone to protect them. It's just a simple question for places you're not going. That's why we call you.
Right. Now, I have
Get it
to,
mixed up like that.
yeah, I have to say that has never happened
Well.
to me.
Good.
I mean, because I've done as many as 4 a day, which is terrible. Very fortunate, but it's a long day.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, when I'm going back through there looking at my pictures, because I write my reports from my pictures, I have my own sign language. I'm taking pictures and I'm doing my little hands, and because I've got to look at these pictures to tell me a story about what I just looked at.
Right.
But a lot of stuff is just repetitious. It's the same old moisture. It's the same old vapor barrier. It's the same old loose knob.
So what would you say are the really most common, and I want you guys to be thinking of your transactions, most common issues that are not just minor, but semi-fixable, but we really need to deal with?
The most thing that I see out there, that if y'all ever, when y'all get listings, you don't necessarily have to get a pre-listing inspection to kind of give you because you know, just people go into a house, whether they renovate it or fix it up to sell, and everything looks pretty for the pictures. But what they do not take care of is that crawl space. 95% of everything bad in that house is underneath the house if it has a crawl space. And it would be so much better for your sellers to know what's going on under there so they can remedy the issue on their own terms versus letting the buyer's inspector find it and you get a report, and next thing you know, they want to have a reputable foundation company or encapsulation company come in there and give you a $5,000 bid when you can have, you know, someone else do it maybe fractions of that. And
you're under the gun and at risk of losing the contract and
yeah, because you're already on time constraints. So before you list the house, let's get that taken care of right off the bat, and then you can fix it on your own terms versus letting the buyer's inspection guide the buyer and their agent say, hey, well, we want to have receipts, we want a reputable company, and now it's just going to cost a lot more. So down there you've got microbial growth, which I call it organic growth. Mold. I never use the word mold. I'm not mold certified. Don't have any idea what it looks like. We all know what it looks like, but I don't know what it looks like. What is that mold? I don't know. Looks like organic growth to me. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's dark, it's damp, it's moist, things grow in the dark when it's moist and damp. So, and that leads me to my writing, my reporting. I have such a good percentage of closing, because y'all set them up, I help you knock them down. So, and I've said that for years. It's like you bring me a client, and I'll help you close that deal. Now, I do not lie. I'm as honest as the day is long. But with my over 40 years, I know you're saying, Dave, you look so young. How could you possibly have over 40 years in the building industry? And when you started 5 years old, it happens. Overnight it happens. So, but I take all that, and that what has brought me here, the education that I've gotten, the hands-on experience, been in the trenches, building a house, it allows me to massage and wordsmith issues to where it doesn't sound as bad, you know, when they're reading. You know, like say was you questioning? Like for instance, you know, if you have a roof that's missing 4 or 5 tabs off your shingles, you know, well, you might get an inspector going like, well, it looks like you're missing shingles, your roof is shot, you have to have a new roof. Wrong answer. You know, you're missing 4 or 5 shingles, you're missing multiple shingles, you know, by replacing those shingle tabs, it's mostly just a tab, you know, and monitoring after heavy storms, you should extend the life out maybe, I never give a date. I can give it verbatim because it's just, you know, just drop it right in there. But it tells them the same thing. You've got some shingle tabs that are missing, but by just replacing those, you're going to get extra years life. Just monitor it after storms, and you should be good to go. There was no leaks detected during the inspection, unless there was.
Well, you got right to my question right after I wrote it down. But do you eyeball a roof, or do you get on the roof?
Great question. That is a great question.
Run, or do you punt to the roof inspector?
Yes. No. Yes. Tennessee does not require inspectors to walk the roof. It's just, I guess, dangerous. It is. So, but being a contractor, being an insurance catastrophe adjuster, did I tell you all that for those time?
Insurance catastrophe.
Yeah, so I did some catastrophe work. Aftermath of Sandy, Chicago wind, California, 6 months. I did say that, didn't I? So, being a builder, being a catastrophe insurance adjuster, that is the most important component of the house. Keep that water out, keep the elements out. So, if the roof is too tall, like way up there, or steep pitch, then no, I do not walk it. But I had rather walk it because you can feel it. Bless you. And I fly it around, and while I'm up there, I go ahead and get you a shot about 150 feet, a good aerial shot of the house, front and back. I give you a good overview of the roof, front and back. And then I get down and I start looking at things, looking at trouble things, looking at the pipe boots around your pipes, your weatherhead coming out if you have electricity coming in, your vents, your valleys. You know, I'm taking pictures. I can fly it that good. I'm a professional pilot. Unmanned aircraft. I'm a professional unmanned aircraft pilot. So around chimneys, the back of chimneys, see a lot of stuff around the back of chimneys.
So I did new constructions for 7 years, and when buyers would come in and the builder would say, "Oh, well, you don't need home inspections. Okay, we're going to take care of everything. You have 10 year structural, blah blah blah." So what do you see with new construction? Because I'm sure you do new construction.
I do.
Because I recommend it too. There's so much builders miss. So what do you see most with builders that they're missing? Is it roof? What is it?
It all goes back to the crawl space. Because even though it's a new home, you know, because after, it depends on what year it was adopted by like Williamson County 14, 15, radon mitigation systems are now put in new homes in just about every surrounding county that I can think of. But still, I mean, they're putting those radon mitigations, passive system, that still works. But the vapor barrier down underneath should go to the wall, up the wall, secure the wall, secured around all penetrations, piers, pipes, everything. It should resemble a swimming pool liner, but it's not supposed to hold water. It's not going to hold water. It's just a kind of an analogy, but it's not going to hold water like a pool, but it keeps the radon from coming. And the moisture, the moisture coming up from the crawl space, huge problem. Because they leave gaps, and you know, then you've got the air duct people going, the HVAC, the electricians, the cable, whoever's going in that crawl space is kicking, scurrying around, and next thing you know, it's a hot mess, and it's just all over the place. So that's the number one thing that I see with new construction.
Not roofs so much.
Not so much roofs.
Okay.
Yeah. Hardly ever do I see an issue with the a new house on a roof, possibly where they've got some step siding, like another roof pops out and there's some step flashing. They should have counter flashing over it. A lot of times I see where they're not putting counter flashing on. But no, not so much with the roof. The crawl space is a killer. Yes, ma'am.
From the time that you finish the inspection and leave to the time that you generate the report, what is like an average turnaround time there?
Another great question. Late that evening or by 8 o'clock the next morning.
Wow.
Because if I don't get them out by 8 o'clock the next morning, they're snowballing. Then I've got 2 or 3 behind that, and then 2, and it's just,
And Joanne doesn't mind.
no. No. So yes, I mean, you know, like this morning, I was in Dixon this morning. I had a chance, vacant home. The client wasn't going to be there, and it didn't have a sentry lock. Sentry lock won't let me in before 8 o'clock. I'm an old contractor. I'm usually hit the ground running by 6 if I can. So I was down there early, knocked out an inspection this morning. Actually had a chance to write the report there, but I don't send it off yet. I don't send it off because the last thing I want to do while I'm here talking with y'all or going to my other inspections today is to have a client calling me wanting to ask questions about their report because I need to get on through my day and then get back to my office and then start writing all the reports. So if I can knock out a report during the day, I will, but hardly ever, unless it's a rush. If you say, Dave, we got a short deadline, man, we need to get in and get out quick. Or if your client doesn't call me until like the last 3 days of your 10-day inspection deadline, you know, it's like, man, we got 3 days left, Dave. I'm sorry, we just got to do it. And I'll do it and I'll send it off as quick as I can get it.
You know, Dave, in our contracts, it says that you are not allowed to, we're recommending, or it's in the contract, that the seller does not need to bring anything up to current code unless it's required. And I see a lot of times that there are inspectors that will note things that are current codes, but they're making them retrofit, like there's no retrofit on things. So you're gonna go into an older home and you're gonna find no GFCI switch except maybe one. Are you recommending that they put one in every water area?
Never. Never ever. Because even though I am a certified building inspector, not even one of my certifications, I still got the training. Yeah, I just don't have that. But no, when I'm inspecting, I do not wear a codes hat. I see a lot of things that would not, especially older homes, that are not up to standard building practices. But you know, you start throwing out the code word, then you start alarming people, and you start killing deals, and that's you know. Like once you say, I'm as honest as the day is long. I tell them exactly what's going on, but I would not say, you know, if there's no GFCI plug in anywhere. Does everyone know what a GFCI plug is? So within a wingspan, 6 feet, any kind of water source, garages, exterior, sinks, doesn't matter. I'll make note of it that it's not GFCI, but that's about, I'll leave it there. You know, can they take a reputable handyman and change out that plug and put one in? Absolutely. And that goes on your repair request.
Do you say that it's dangerous? Because that's what I hear, is people say, well, no, it's not a code requirement to bring it up to code, but it's dangerous. And so that makes buyers, so I always see that buyers are asking sellers to put GFCI switches in. Is that correct?
Well,
you see that?
yeah.
And that's not a mandatory code thing, nor is it necessarily, I mean.
Can you read exactly what I
I thought it was a mandatory code thing.
No.
For new construction.
I think the bottom line is it doesn't matter, and that's really I think what we need to.
No, well, there are some things that you have to bring up to code when you sell. For instance, the water heater relief valve has to go all the way to the floor, and you have to retrofit that. Yes, you do.
Here is verbatim this is what I drop in when I see GFCI that's not next to water. All plugs on the exterior in garages and within 6 feet of a water source should be GFCI protected.
Should.
I recommend never use.
Must.
Or required to be.
Y'all might have. don't know if I coined this or not, it's precisely vague. Be precisely vague. Could be, maybe, but never it will, or it is. It's all in the massaging, wordsmithing.
But if it were me,
But
we
it-
would have to say.
That would be in new construction.
But I heard that, is this true about the, relief valve, the condo relief valve on water heaters? If you go into one and it's only about this long, you've got to bring it to the floor. I heard that.
It should extend all the way down.
Should.
That's what it should. It should.
It should, there's a ton of should.
So it's all about letting the client know the issue without alarm. So if I bring it up and say they should be GFCI protected, I recommend installing and testing GFCI plugs periodically, testing periodically to prevent possible shock. Possible shock. Not that you will be shocked, but now if you don't have a GFCI plug like the old movies, you're got someone in your garden tub they used to have back in the 80s, and they throw a toaster in there, well then you're dead. But if it's GFCI protected, you're good.
I have a question about the older homes and the slanty floors.
Yeah.
A lot of times walking through the homes with a slanty floor, I'm sure that you encounter that a lot as an
A lot.
inspector. How often do you say, get a structural engineer, or this is just part of, like, in the older homes?
I really try to stay away from structural engineer,
Okay.
because that sends up flags.
Like, what?
I would say I launched my company in June of 15, so we're just over 4 years, and I think I have suggested a structural engineer 4 times.
Okay.
So when I'm looking at foundations, brick, and it's got just the hairline crack, the stair step cracks, every now and then I'll see that in a basement or something, that terrible horizontal crack. But unless I can start sticking my fingers in it, like a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, then it's just typical settling.
Okay.
You take these older homes, especially the old wooden posts up front of the house, a rock pier or something, if the piers aren't installed properly, like on good proper concrete footers, and they're good and solid, then I make note of that they don't appear to be installed. They don't appear to be installed properly. Can't tell it because it's all covered up with something or whatever, but you can tell those old wooden piers under there, and then the house settles, and especially in the older ranch homes. I haven't been in too many ranch homes that doesn't have a little hump right there in the main beam going down the house. And that's just typical settling over the years. Do we need to have a structural engineer to come in and jack the house up? No. So I kind of, let the
So how
clients
do
know.
we know as, when you're doing you get your report, we represent a buyer, and it has this appears and suggests and could and should. How do we, and if a client calls you, how do we help them or you help them know what to propose to a seller to make them feel safe and comfortable that they're gonna be okay and ask the seller to repair? How do we?
If I use something like it appears to be
Right.
or should be.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of those questions. I think, I would, when y'all were creating the repair request list, and, all GFCI plugs should be protected, then that would just be a signal to me to go, I don't get a call for that, but it's like, if I say it should be, then that means, or I'm not saying that it's almost kind of like reading between the lines. It's like, if I'm pointing it out, and if I got it in the general summary that something's going on with it, then I need to ask how it's fixed. So it should be fixed, or if it should be protected, it should be fixed. So let's put it on the report, or let's put it on the request. That sort of thing. So I don't get a lot of, in my wording, I'm precise, but with that, should or maybe or something of that nature.
So how do we help them know what they should be requesting? Do you guys, is that something that
Yes.
you run up with? Yes.
I'm not a contractor.
And I need
Right.
one
Well,
inspector to help me know what's really.
Well, I mean, since we're on the GFCI plugs, if I say that it should be GFCI, all outlets with exterior in the garage within 6 foot of water source should be GFCI, and I'll have a picture of it, you know, and I'll tell you where it's at, master bathroom, garage, or something of that nature. Well, then, on your on your request list, just put on there to ensure all these areas that are, you know, garage, exterior, make sure they all work. The GFCI protected. Yes, ma'am.
What I love about your report is that you can take your report and create my repair inspection, to
Yes.
send to the seller.
Well, that part of I use HomeGate software. Like I said, I went through 6 months of interviewing software companies and playing around with them, but I settled on this one, and they do offer that. At the bottom of that, the last thing of that email that I send out, it actually has a link that you can play around with it and get to, you know, because change is inevitable, but when you're so used to doing something, cutting, copy, paste, or you take my reports, copy, paste, the software allows you to take that report and create your repair request list, create a PDF that you just print off or attach and send it right on. So,
Just the things
Yeah.
you're requiring.
yes, because you know you're on the report. Once you go into it and you learn how to use it, you know there's 3 options. Either okay, well GFCI plug is not protected, so it's like okay, well don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. So the buyer says don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. All right, or they say, well, we want you to fix it. You know, show us some receipts. You take care of the issue, fix it because we don't want to deal with it. Or number 3 is like, okay, well, give us a monetary compensation at the end of the deal, and then we'll take care of it. So that's pretty much your 3 options, and it gives you a space to do that on that report on the software.
Actually, having him as an inspector on one of my last things, the other agent also knew you, and so it just made that so much easier. And she was like, "Oh yeah, that totally makes sense." And I'm like, "Well, you know." So the negotiations were agreed.
And it's wonderful working with so many great agents. And I'm so lucky to have such a large, what I call my bucket of agents, large, that, and you'd be surprised how many I never meet. Just, I had one just, in the hallway there, just stopped me, because they knew I was coming in today. And I remember on the email, great phone, great email, great texting, didn't know who in the world she was. But it's put a name to the face. So that's, and I've got some that I've worked with for the full time, almost 4 years, and I've never, they could walk through that door and I wouldn't know who they are. But we got a great relationship.
So what else have you found that's been really troublesome for you with inspections? Scott?
There isn't even really a question or probably a solid answer to this, but one of the most frustrating things I deal with all the time is an old HVAC. It is working, but it's obviously, at some point it's gonna die soon, whatever soon is. So I get this all the time, well, the HVAC is at the end of its life, we want to replace. And I have to say, yes, it's, maybe you can say that, but it's functioning as it should right now. So that's the end of the story. And it always turns into this big, sometimes it's been the decision of we're gonna buy or we're not gonna buy based on that.
It's a big ticket item.
To negotiate, really, a lot of times.
Right. So, I know you said it was a question, but it wasn't a question, so is it?
Well, I mean, it's, that's an issue I deal with a lot. I didn't know if you have, you know.
Well, I mean, like for myself, if, like exactly what you said, if I go in there and there's a certain range of temperature that I'm looking for that's coming out of the register and what's going back into return on the cool cycle. All right, so if it meets that, it's working properly. Same thing on the heat. If I'm getting adequate enough heat out, if it's gas or if it's a heat pump, then it's working. But but on an older home, then that's why I've got these additional services, and I call in Mr. Cool if they require, if they ask for that. He comes in, takes stuff apart, digs in there, sees some rust or the burners are messed up or there's rust around their coils or you know, and then he provides, what's really good about that, he provides a report, a pretty nice report, and then at the bottom of it, he'll give estimate of how much to fix it.
So that's an affiliate of yours, and I'm sorry.
Yes.
But that's great.
Yes, sir. That's part of my additional services, and one of my professionals that I use, like Radon One,
Yeah.
Mr. Cool. We used to do anti-pass, but now that's me.
So you have some protection clauses as inspectors. Because you're just measuring the heat and cool, you're not making a claim whether this is
That is
got a
correct.
life or not, or
No,
how long.
never.
And
now-
so you may say, you would recommend that they have it further inspected. Is that?
One of my common sentences at the end of an issue is further evaluation needed. Because I don't know. Because but as long as it's working, then further evaluation, possible repair is needed on an issue. So, but if it's working when I'm there, now I have clients that are there, and we're looking at some things, and they'll go, man, that HVAC system's like 18 years old. It's working good today, but historically, I mean, I'll tell them this verbally, not on a report, but verbally, I'm sitting there saying, well, it's a mechanical device. You say, okay, well, in my experience, I've got a brand new HVAC system put in, and 2 years later, I'm changing out a component in it because they probably put it together Friday at 4 o'clock. It's like, let's do it together. Send it down the line. So it's going to be, it could be a $200 component, it could be a $2,000 component. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, 18 years old, and knowing that something's going to happen, or maybe something's already been replaced in it, we just don't know it. But something that old, you're really, I'd say, when you start hitting 12 to 15 years, you're probably looking at something going wrong with it. But then it's going to be a balancing act. Say, okay, do I want to pump another 2,000 in here to maybe get me down the road, or maybe a year, 2 years down the road, or go ahead and drop $6 grand and be done with it, or negotiate that six grand.
I was just going to share that one of the things that I had to remind myself about is, especially on personal property, is it serving its intended purpose? It may not be new, it may not be shiny, it may not be doing it as well as it could, but is it serving its intended purpose? Especially on the seller side, when negotiating with the buyer and they tell you it's garbage or it's old or it's this, it's like, but it's working. Like it's serving its intended purpose. So, and I always say, we price the house according that it has these systems. It's not a new home, and we priced it accordingly. Had we put in a new roof and HVAC, I have a new price for it.
Right. But maybe also the home warranty, maybe is if it's past inspection, then maybe that's where that home warranty gives a little comfort for at least a year to the client that, hey.
Yeah, all that comes in.
Yeah. But I have a question about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, you have to make sure that you add the HVAC onto it, because.
Oh, right, exactly, the additional, the higher level warranty. So, do you ever go back? I mean, this was a crazy thought that I had in the middle of a really crazy deal that happened where there was a huge repair list of, this was only my second transaction very recently, and there was a huge repair list. We went through, got all the receipts. I went back to meet my clients for the walkthrough, and there was a lot of electrical problems, and I still had a really uneasy feeling about, even though on the receipt it said everything was repaired. When I went in, I couldn't turn on the kitchen lights, the master lights weren't working, went downstairs, flipped the breakers, everything came back on. The seller's agent said, oh, it's just there was a lot of storms, whatever. And I was like, should I call the inspector back out to see if what he found was actually fixed? Long story short, I had still an uneasy feeling on closing day, because everybody, even my clients who were the buyers, were like, we're fine, it's fine, it was just storms. But I went out to leave a gift at the house, and everything was insane 2 hours before closing, and the entire breaker box had blown. And situation happened. But I wanted to call the inspector back like a couple days before that, so that I wasn't like getting to the day of closing, because I still had this feeling, and I was like, should I ask the buyers, do they want the
How do you
inspector?
feel about going back to, as an inspector, to go back and inspect that the seller did do it correct? Do you have, would you, and do you charge?
That's what I wondered, thank you.
Yes, it's called on verification / reinspection.
Okay,
So usually they will, the buyer's agent will send me a list of, now if you've asked for everything on the report, then there's no sense in sending me a list, because I've already got one. You know, my software will create a new report with just the things that's in the general summary and the safety. That's all I'm looking at. But if you go in and says, well, we didn't ask for them to fix everything, just these certain things, then I just go look at those certain things. But yes, I do charge for that. Don't really set aside a full inspection, like in my regular 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock inspection times, but I'll fit it in somewhere between the day. So give you a kind of like the cable person. I'm gonna be there between this time. And I don't really, not that I don't allow, but time, because it's such a window of me coming back to do that, you know, I don't really need the client there.
And you have to be careful, because the client can get you sucked in, maybe they've moved out now, so it's vacant, now they want some more, and you have no options to have another inspection other than for your own. So I mean, you can't ask for, unless it's changed since the first one.
Right. Now, speaking of going back and doing re-inspection, y'all still circulating those emails? I didn't get a chance to look at that, but if you flip in there, there's a section in there right up underneath where the time and the date, and it says it is imperative that you send this list to the seller's agent so they can have the home ready for inspection. What really gets me is, you know, I'll go into a house. So next time y'all have a listing, and we've got some people looking at it, got it on a contract, you know, especially if your clients are still living there, which is very common. Don't have them clean off the top of the cabinets and put it all underneath, make it look pretty for me, because the plumbing is where I need to look. And I'll open up the vanity up under there, and it's just chock full of stuff. I can't see that plumbing, and I have to put it on the report, because if I check it off, plumbing looks good, the next thing you know, that's got a leak under there that I couldn't see. Well, guess what? I'm liable for that.
So you won't move it?
No, I do not touch any personal items. I will stay in there, could not observe all of the area under the vanity due to personal items. Further evaluation needed. Closets, everything's shoved in the closet. I cannot view all the closets because of due to personal items. Further inspection needed. Worst place is garages. Garages where the HVAC system sometimes is, where the water heater sometimes is, where the electric panel sometimes is. Now I run across that all the time, and they just got stuff just jammed, like that's their own storage facility, which it is. But if you're selling a house, get a pod, go take this stuff down to a storage unit, get this thing opened up so the inspectors can see it, because someone's going to pay me $200 to go back and look at that. I mean, if I got to drive back to look at an electric panel because you had all your chest of drawers and beds pushed up against it, then I'm not moving that, because as soon as I move it, it's called a sequence of unbroken events. I move that bed, it falls down and hits that lamp post and goes through the most expensive clock you've ever seen in your life. I'm liable. An unbroken chain of events. That's what they call it.
That's an interesting thing as listing agents. We tell them to get the house staged and look pretty, but we really don't talk about, and from a buyer standpoint, maybe in the contract, I don't think about this, we may want to put the seller to have all cabinets and garage and blah, blah, blah available for inspection by, because then you gotta pay again to have them go back out if they couldn't do it.
Especially pull down attics, we have pull down stairs. I go up there and it's like, man, it's a sea of boxes and plastic tubs. I mean, I can't see anything.
But it's in
You
your
know,
reminder.
Yeah.
I'm Yolanda Tyson.
Hi.
Hey, it's in your reminder too. I know I've received that from you.
Well, it's in that email.
No, it's a reminder from me.
It's in that email that you get from me to copy and paste and send this on to the seller. So, and a lot of times, you know,
Prior to the inspection?
as soon as that inspection is ordered,
Oh.
the first thing that goes out is that email. The second thing that goes out, because it says that one of two, the second of two emails is your pre-inspection. You don't get that, your client does. Pre-inspection agreement and how to sign for it and how to pay online. But that is the meat of everything. Every question that could be asked is in that email. And I ask that they all send that on to the seller.
I've run into that before. Most recently, I had a huge listing, a huge house I listed, and she had a collection of stuff.
And she had what?
A collection of things like her attic, or it could look, it was
Yeah.
open. And that was part of the listing consult. We did the walkthrough, like, this is what I expected. The primary thing, I think, the motivator was like, if they can't see it and they have to come back, we're gonna ask you to pay for it.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
And that kind of lights a fire under
Right.
your clients to.
And that's
do
something
that.
though that has to be in the contract.
Well, and when you send that email to them, if you copy and paste that section that I've got in there to the sellers, that also gives you a paper trail that says, hey, I sent you this.
Right.
Why?
And
Because
I'll send it to the buyer's agent and say, you know, or I mean to the listing agent and say, hey, this is what my inspectors, call it out, because I know they're just as busy as we are understanding stuff.
Right,
It's like,
right.
please understand.
Because if I've got to go back to look at something that I couldn't view before, that starts encroaching on your deadline.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're already close. And now it's like, now I got to go back, and it's like, okay, where can I squeeze this in?
But money's a great motivator, so.
Well, and believe it or not, it becomes a real arguing point, not an arguing point, but it's like, well, who's responsible for paying me to go back out there when it should have been ready to begin with? Of course, it's on the seller side. But if for some reason my client or my agent didn't forward that on, it's like, well, oh man, and then of course, because I bend over backwards for my agents, I just drop my head and I just don't do it. But if they could get me paid on the back end, then I'll take it.
Ted, you had a comment on that?
So, yeah, I just wrote special stipends language that specifies that the seller is going to be responsible for any reinspection and I put specific things in there such as them not being able to access areas and most importantly, pilot lights not being on and easily.
Fireplaces, dark, and it's like, I get there and it's like, I'm trying to light that pilot light. I mean, I know how to light multiple manufacturers' fireplaces, but if I only have a certain amount of time to sit there and turn on gas and click, 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 or whatever, and I don't bring out a lighter and try to light up, if it doesn't have a click, click, clicker or an igniter. So yeah, that's pilot light's always a big issue. Just getting the house ready, and you're still back to the crawl space. Y'all read that email. It's like critters. If it is conducive to harboring critters, if I go in there and there's all kind of clutter, debris, and insulation dropping down, and I'm seeing snake skins. I mean, I'm going in there to look at components of the home, not to fight for my life getting out of there. So especially, and if I go in there and if I see fresh coon droppings, raccoons, and especially if I see some prints, it's over with. I'm out.
Are they bad?
You do not want to get in a crawl space with raccoons.
Yeah, Big John.
A raccoon has the option of coming down and whooping every dog on the ground. If you've ever been coon hunting. They're terrible. They're pretty to watch. I love watching them.
Yeah, watch
If you're waking them up, it's not catching that.
They can be their den, because I mean, it gets that bad.
Okay. We're at our time. Is there anything in your notes we didn't cover, and are there any more questions before we thank David for this?
Going back to the the GMCI plug. There's some, like, you know, handrails, graspable handrails. You know, I use that for my coach days, but I don't, you know, every stair over 3 steps should have a graspable handrail. It doesn't matter how long it is. So I see a lot of that you know, I make mention of it. Should be, you know, that sort of thing. The electrical panels, the ladies already left about the explosive electrical panels. There's an electrical panel out there called a Federal Pacific Stab Lock that back in the 40s and 50s and 60s is called issues. It's called a cost issue. You know, when I see one of those, which is rare, I might see 4 or 5 a year, but I've got a thermal gun, I check the breakers. Normally those, and I've got 2 electricians that I've called, professional master electricians, and they said as long as those breakers aren't hot and they don't have too much added load. It was an older house, and they've added hot tubs over here, and they've added another upstairs, another unit or something. Those breakers can get hot, and it needs to be upgraded. But anyway, that's about it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You want to see David's special house he built?
Thank y'all, but remember those crawl spaces? You know, the crawl spaces are the worst the most neglected areas of the house. And it's just, you know, I've always said that if you could take a picture, you get a house ready to market, take a picture of the front of it, and then take a picture of a nice, clean crawl space, sold automatically. We don't care what the inside looks, because if you've got a crawl space that looks that good, we know the inside.
Do you recommend a calculation company?
Right on one. They do.
Yep.
They sure do.
Insulation, what's your question?
Encapsulation.
Oh, right on.
And speaking of encapsulation, if y'all paid attention, like in the news, when y'all were getting ready in the morning, probably about the last 5 years, all these foundation companies talk about, you know, the wet, moist basements and crawl spaces and things. You know, before then, you hardly ever heard of it. And I think it's coming to the forefront because of how we've been building homes for the last 80 years. And I think within the next 10 years, I think it's going to be mandatory. The International Code Council sets all these regulations of how we build homes. And then as these municipalities adopt these changes that they bring forward. Another 10 years, I say it's going to be mandatory that every home built will be encapsulated crawl space. But there's millions of them out there that aren't encapsulated. But there's something in that crawl space. It's kind of like, you know, growing up, you know, who ever heard of a peanut allergy when I was in school? Never. All right. So I was fortunate enough to be an elected school board member. Believe it or not, yes, I have a little politician streak in me. But the schools are full of peanut allergies. And what I'm getting to is something about the human body, I think, is morphing or something, but something in that crawl space is becoming more susceptible to the organic growth that is down there. That gets in our air because your HVAC ducts, your boots, they're not sealed properly. So you're getting that crawl space. You're getting the crawl space stuff inside the air where you breathe. Another reason to keep that crawl space.
We're just filling time here, but did you, in that crawl space discussion, David, did you talk about as far as whether to, a lot of people ask whether to keep the vents open or closed? I know that's common. That's one that I see everybody miss.
I mean, if it's an encapsulated, but if it's just a regular old like we have it today, you know, I'm a big fan of shutting it off, putting a dehumidifier in there, getting the moisture out. The moisture is a big issue. So what happens is you've got several ways moisture can get to a crawl space. Number one is you've got these foundation vents that's been around for the last 80 years. Well, on a good hot day, it's seasonal with the moisture, but when you've got a good 90-degree plus day, you know, and high humidity, that air blows right into that crawl space, which is maybe around 80-something degrees. I don't know exactly how much, but I know it's cooler. It's cooler, and that warm air holds more moisture than cool air, and it releases that moisture in the crawl space. That's one way. The next way is the lack of vapor barrier. Depending on your water table where your house is at, you could be 6 to 12 gallons of water evaporating from the soil daily in your crawl space. soaking up into the wood, that bad insulation, which I'm not a big fan of. I take every bit of bad insulation out. So, and then you've got, a lot of your HVAC trunk lines are going through the crawl space. So you're blowing 55-degree air in an 80-degree space, with not a lot of good insulation, and it's dripping. I mean, it looks like it's raining when it's really hot outside. So you've got multiple things that are creating moisture in a crawl space. So you just try to mitigate. You just try to mitigate that as much as possible. Hey, there's a slipper.
So, this is the MLS pictures that Ted took when he listed the house, and I was in Florida. And Ted showed me this, and I said, that's the house I have now. And we put an offer in it, I never saw it, so I bought it.
It's always nice representing your mother on your own listing with your home inspector. Yeah, that gets weird.
So this is, David, what it looked like when David had it on the market. It looks like that, but we have different furniture. But that's it.
But we wanted a lot with it furnished too. Another thing
Closet is the bomb.
it's all IKEA cabinets that David did.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. Another thing that I think is a fun trick to tell your sellers is the thing that's at the bottom of the gutter. There's this thing, what's it called?
Splash block.
Splash block. Does everyone know which way it goes?
Away from the house.
Okay, this is a slope, okay? Which end goes up to the gutter?
Which one is the widest?
Call
This is the widest point, sorry. Okay? Which end goes up against the gutter?
it. The left side.
The left side.
The short side.
The short side.
Wow.
Is that right? That is absolutely not right.
Are you drawing a splash? Is he drawing a splash block?
Yes, it does, but what is this supposed to do?
It's supposed to.
Create a splash. You've really just created a river. And I live in you turn this around. Wide side.
the water?
It narrows it down.
So the water comes out of the gutter and it filters down
Oh my
the
God.
little ridges, and the ridges are pointed this way. They're pointed away.
Oh my
And when it
God.
gets to the end, it does what? It disperses in less of a river format, not to create a groove running down your house.
We're missing the beautiful
Life
kitchen.
hacks.
It's coming.
That's my picture.
Now I gotta go home. That's a nice kitchen.
Is the splash block thing, is that new to anybody? Who is that new to?
Oh, I was telling you.
Only 2 people that didn't know the splash block.
Wow. I thought it was the other way.
David, one of the cabinets, where did you get the cabinet?
A friend of ours owns a law home company building, and we just ordered them through them, so I couldn't tell you where they come from.
And those are those ceilings that he gapped, and then he put screws in any of them, so if you ever needed to do HVAC repair or anything, you could take one panel off and access. David really built this whole house. At the first floor, what's interesting is when he was building it, he used poured wall construction, and at the time, the guy offered him for a little bit more money to go, 1 or 2 more feet higher?
The Superior Wall.
Superior Wall, yeah.
Superior walls are built in a factory. They bring them out and sit them down, and they made a 9-foot to 10-foot for residential. And he said, Dave, for another $1,500, you can go up another foot around the perimeter. So a 9-foot, 10-foot, and that 10-foot saves about 8 inches of water in that house.
So in 2010, the water came 2 inches from coming in the main level of the home. So that water was all the way up to this deck, and they got taken out of their master bedroom window on a boat after everyone stayed after the flood.
It was 11 feet in the driveway on my boat deck finder.
So in the recent flood in the spring of this year, we were watching that every minute, and we had to get an elevation certificate. We're not showing this to you just like, oh, this is Bonnie's house. Like, there's things to learn in this process, not just in the buying and getting elevation certificates and flooding potential, but also in, that's it. But in construction, I've learned so much from builders that I've worked with in the past as far as the process they went through it, and the same thing with David. So
So what did they do?
Thank you.
What did they do?